First things first, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Tell me your name again.
Robin.
Robin? Robin.
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 Yes. What I want to start with is, well, you have a love for music, obviously, and a love for skateboarding.
Yeah.
Which came first?
I think the music did. Yeah, because I've been hearing music since I was a kid through my parents' love for music.
Right. And are there certain albums or songs that stick out from when you were young?
Yes, Stevie Wonder songs in the Key of Life, Talking Book, early Emmylou Harris, Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt.
So quite eclectic as well.
Yeah, for sure. My parents had eclectic taste.
Okay.
Still, my mom still does.
Am I right in saying that your grandparents had a music store?
They did.
Okay.
It's still there. Since
Okay.
1958, going on 60 years, it's been open.
And then, so you grew up around a lot of music, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of music and a lot of sounds from all over the world, because it was a music store that specialized in instruments, acoustic instruments, melody and rhythm from all across the globe.
And then, so did you kind of automatically gravitate towards music to play it yourself?
I did. I was hooked young.
Okay.
Hooked.
Do you know what kind of set it off?
The feeling that hearing the music gave me,
Okay.
and I wanted to be able to get a part of that, get a piece of that. Yeah.
Did it take long from that moment to the point where you were able to create that feeling for yourself?
Well, I started with my hands in the instruments. I used to fix instruments and repair them and get to understand what made them tick. Because my grandfather, that was his passion. And then I went from there to learning to play them. And from learning to play them, it outpaced the repairing. And there was no looking back for me. I just couldn't get enough of it.
And what age was this?
17,
Okay.
18.
And then, so can I assume that you were skateboarding by then as well?
Yeah, by then. I started skateboarding when I was hearing music from the time I was born. I started skateboarding in like 1977 when I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Okay. Because, well, in my opinion, skateboarding and music are also quite linked.
They're linked.
So was that for you the same?
Yeah, same way.
Okay.
Same way.
So,
They're both just a limitless, endless exploration of potential and possibility. Yeah.
So when did music kind of? Well, you say you already started with music, but when did it kind of take the upper hand over what else you were doing?
Music took the upper hand. I did other sports. Once I got into high school, I got into team sports, track and field.
Okay.
And I was friends with Chris Miller, who's one of the greatest skaters on the planet. And Chris Miller and I went to grade school together. And he excelled so far, so fast. I just knew that, I just wasn't disciplined to chase after skateboarding in the way I was some other sports.
Sure.
I wish I would have been now. It's a big regret of mine to not have stuck with skateboarding.
Well, you say it's a regret. Would you have gone down this route of being a musician if you had stuck with being a skateboarder?
Maybe, maybe not. It's a good way of thinking about it, though. I may. Who knows? I mean, clearly it wasn't my professional calling, but I do regret at least not committing more time to it earlier.
Is that in a sense of work ethic or the creativity or the feeling that you got from it?
If I would have stuck with it, never mind being a professional, because when I was a kid, there really was no professional skaters. I mean, the Bones Brigade were really the first guys that came along and established skating as being a true sport, a sport that was a spectator sport. Dogtown, of course, was before them, but Bones Brigade really kind of established a mold that's followed through today with signature boards and stuff like that. I wish I would have stuck with, I wish I wouldn't have compromised my skateboarding for basketball, for track and field, and for, just friends and social life. I always skated recreationally, but I never put in the discipline to get to build a foundation at that age, and I should have. I could have. I just, I didn't. And when you're a kid, you switch from BMX to skateboarding, back to BMX, skateboarding. So I just went in and out of so many things. And there was a time in my youth when skateboarding collectively, culturally, kind of it disappeared. It kind of went away. And I unfortunately followed that. I didn't stay with it. And the guys that stayed with it, like Rodney Mullen and Tony Hawk and Steve Cabb and Lance Mountain, those guys were rewarded by being some of the best skateboarders in the world and groundbreaking, pioneers. So again, I don't mean to sort of
sure.
circle my regrets, but it is a regret, because if I would have stayed with it, I'd be so much better now.
But in a similar sense, and those kind of, when you say it needed a certain focus to stay with it, so it's, in a similar sense with music, even to this day, are there still distractions like what you mentioned, social life, and that impede on your creativity?
There are distractions, but none of them impede on my creative process at all. But it's a lot less painful to write a bad song than it is to take a bad fall.
Sure. So did you have a couple bad ones?
Well, when you're a kid, yeah, you gotta. It's part of it's learning. You gotta learning to skate is learning to fall.
Right.
So yeah, maybe that was it. But I don't ever remember as a kid being intimidated to fall. Sure. I just didn't, for whatever reason, stick with it.
And then again, similarly with music, do you have that same approach where you're not afraid to release what comes from here?
That's for sure. I'm not intimidated in the least to take chances and take risks musically.
So if we move then to the latest album, what was the approach that you took for this album? Because you have made a lot of music over the years.
Similar to learning a set of tricks in skateboarding. You find the tricks that are most ingrained in your natural, like I'm better at heel flips than kick flips. So I learned to laser flip before I learned a tray flip, kind of thing. I learned a varial heel, not laser. I learned a varial heel before I could even kick flip. Okay. So just taking chances, though. Just taking chances and not conforming, just doing it your own way.
Is that a tough thing to do in the current musical climate?
It is, because when you do things your own way, you have to change the industry to fit what you're doing, instead of you changing to fit what the industry is doing. So when you're trying to get a whole industry to fit around your songs and your creative process, that's as hard as landing a tray flip,
And then how do you do it then? How do you make the industry fit what you're doing?
Just by making no compromises and believing in yourself and making sure that what you're doing is sincere. I'm making sure what you're doing is coming from the right place, and for the right reasons, and with the right attitude, perspective.
In this sense, has the place where the music comes from changed for you over the years?
It's the place where it comes from hasn't changed, but the places where I have gone and the place where I am has changed. Because I've been through so much with so many people and been to so many places. You can't be the same person, but the music still comes from the same place. The same source.
Sure. And if we go to, I think it was 2007 when you after Lifeline, that kind of you departed ways with Innocent Criminals.
Yeah, that's right.
Why did you do this? Why this decision?
Because I think we stopped hearing each other, stopped listening to each other.
In what sense, musically, or
both personally and musically. Yeah.
And that was affecting what you were making.
Yeah, it was affecting all of our lives creatively, and I think a lot of it's my fault. I think we were overworked. We were one of the hardest working bands in show business. I mean, we toured hundreds and 300 days a year, 250 days a year. It was a very aggressive schedule, but at the same time, we as a band never really some songs have made greater strides into radio than others, but we established our reputation in a different way than bands that have pop hits. So it was that relentless touring that built what it is we have today, but it also took a toll on our friendship and on the music at the time, because I think we were overworked, and nobody ever likes to admit when they're overworked.
So when this kind of you went your separate ways, what was your mindset at that point? What was your goal to do musically?
It was just time to do something different and fresh, and explore other music with other people. Everybody in the band needed to do that. We all needed to find who we were outside this band.
What have you discovered about yourself?
Well, it's not, I'm not sure what I've discovered about myself, but I certainly have discovered and explored so many different genres and styles of music in different configurations. It's pushed me in ways that really prepared me to get back with the Innocent Criminals. A musical environment I've been in has been humbling and educational in a way that is like, it was all preparing me for this record, White Lies for, excuse me, it was all preparing me for this record, Call It What It Is. And I wouldn't have known that until we got back together, and I was able to actually take all the different lessons from the different configurations I'd worked in and apply them with the Innocent Criminals. It's not like something I did in a robotic way, said, now that I've learned all this, I will put it here. It's just once I got back in a room with those guys, we had all grown leaps and bounds musically. And I'll tell you, that was some of the most exciting recording I've ever been a part of, is Call It What It Is.
Can you give me one example, just before we talk about the recording, one example of something that you picked up? Because you made a blues album. I think you recorded a folk album with your mother. So what is one thing that you picked up from these?
God, I've got to choose the one that is most, there's so many. One is the texture of my voice, how to sing, where to come from, to embrace the power of my lower register. That's one thing. Another thing would be slide guitar, when to slide and when to pluck. You know, sometimes to slide up to a note or slide down from a note without plucking the string again, just longer, more strident, more breath in the notes, that kind of thing.